The warning Lena sat behind a broken wall, her hands gripping a dusty rifle. Smoke filled the air and the sky above was dark with enemy ships. The ground shook as another blast hit nearby. Her unit, once 20 strong, was now silent. Only she remained. The mission had been simple. A scout run across an abandoned mining colony. But the Dracs had been waiting. They attacked from all sides. The ambush was fast, brutal, and well planned. Her helmet buzzed. Cadet Lena. The voice from high command spoke calm and cold. You are surrounded. There is no support available. We recommend surrender. Lena stared at the small screen. Her face, covered in dirt and sweat, did not move. Repeat, the voice said again. Surrender is the best option. She shut the comm. Surrender. After everything. After her team gave their lives. She looked around. Rubble, blood, silence. Then she saw it, just beyond the ridge. The enemy base. A black fortress, tall and wide, pulsing with strange blue lights. She had seen it briefly during the first minutes of the attack. A thought came to her. It was crazy, but so was dying without trying. She checked her pack. 1 energy blade, 3 explosive charges, a broken scanner. Her water was low. Her leg ached from a fall, but she could still walk. And she had her mind, her training, her will. She remembered something her old instructor once said. When they expect you to fall, stand up. When they expect you to break, hit harder. Lena took a deep breath. The enemy thought she would surrender. Even her own leaders thought it. She wasn't going to. She moved quickly, crawling through the dirt, staying in the shadows. The Drax patrols walked near the edge of the base, their armor thick, their weapons glowing. But they were big, slow, and proud. They didn't expect one small human to come toward them. By nightfall, she had found a weak spot in their wall. A damaged gate, likely hit during the earlier fighting. She hid inside a pile of scrap metal and watched. The guards were lazy, bored. They thought the battle was done. Lena whispered to herself, They told me to surrender, but I see a chance. Her heart pounded. Her hands shook, but her eyes were clear. This wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about orders. It was about proving them wrong, proving that humans do not surrender easily. She would not go quietly. She would not become a name on a list. She would take their base. Alone, but not broken. The night was silent, but Lena's thoughts were loud. Hidden inside the scrap pile, she waited. Every sound made her tense. A Drax guard's heavy steps, the low hum of machines, the wind scraping over metal. It all kept her alert. She hadn't slept in over 30 hours, but her focus was sharp. Lena checked her supplies again. 3 charges, just enough. She needed more. Gear more than what she had if she was going to break deeper into the base. But she also needed a plan. Charging in with nothing but courage would just get her killed. She crept out from the metal pile and moved along a narrow path behind some, storage crates. She moved low, using shadows like armor. A patrol passed just 10 feet away, their glowing visors scanning the dark. She froze. Her hand rested on her blade's grip, but they didn't see her. When they moved on, Lena slipped into an old control shed on the edge of the base. It was dark and dusty. A broken drone sat in the corner. She checked it. Its power cell still worked. Carefully, she pulled it out and added it to her bag. It might be useful later. Then she found something better. A map. Half-burned and covered. In soot, but readable. It showed the base layout. Barracks, armory, control room, power center. One word stood out. Core. The power core was located deep in the base. Heavily guarded. But if it was damaged, maybe the defenses would fail. She smiled slightly. It wasn't much. But it was a path. Just then her earpiece buzzed again. A voice. This time a soldier. Lena, this is Walker. I'm pinned. Sector 9. Her eyes widened. Someone else was alive. She checked the map. Sector 9 wasn't far. Lena knew it was risky. Going to help him meant changing her plan, but she also knew, alone, her chances were low. Together, they might stand a chance. She moved fast, sticking to the edges of buildings and ducking under half-broken walkways. The air was thick with smoke and heat. Somewhere nearby, a plasma gun fired. Short bursts. Not automatic. Someone was holding a last stand. She followed the sound, crawling up a damaged wall and peeking over the edge. Below her, in a narrow alley, was Walker. His leg was bleeding, and he was hiding behind a flipped transport cart. 2 Drax soldiers fired from the far side, pinning him down. Lena didn't wait. She took one of her charges, set the timer for 3 seconds, and tossed it over the wall. Boom! The blast knocked both Drax back. Lena jumped down, rushed over, and helped Walker up. "You're insane," he said, gritting his teeth. "Thanks," she said with a smirk. "Can you walk?" "Enough." Together, they limped back to the control shed. Walker told her what he saw before he got pinned. "The Drax are storing fuel cells near the center, explosives. If they go up, it'll cripple half the base." Lena looked at the map again. Fuel cells, power core, 2 weak points, 2 chances to break them, but they were deep inside enemy territory. She sat for a moment thinking, her breath steady, her hand resting on the map. They wanted her to give up. Now they would pay for that mistake. Into the fire dawn broke over the jagged hills, but the Drax base remained dark under its energy dome. From their small hiding spot near the control shed, Lena and Walker stared at the faint glow surrounding the enemy camp. "We'll go through the old tunnels," Lena whispered, tracing a path on the map. "These lines here, they connect fuel storage to the main power core." Walker leaned forward, wincing at the pain in his leg. "You think they're still open?" "I don't know," she said. "But it's our only way in without walking. Through a dozen guards." He gave a tired nod. "Then let's move." They left at sunrise when the Drax changed shifts. Patrols were thinner. Cameras were pointed away. The perfect time to slip through. Lena led the way, crawling through cracks and broken paths. The tunnels were old, built by miners before the Drax invaded the colony. Metal walls rusted, pipes hissed, the air smelled like oil and dust. Half an hour in, they reached a sealed hatch. Lena pulled out her stolen power cell and attached it to the control box. Sparks flew. The door creaked open. They stepped inside and froze. A Drax technician stood in the hallway beyond, back turned. He hadn't heard the door open. Lena motioned for Walker to stay still. She crept up behind the alien, pulled her blade silently, and struck, fast and clean. The Drax dropped with a dull thud. Walker exhaled. "Remind me never to sneak up on, you." They moved deeper, and soon they were in the lower tunnels right under the base. Here they saw signs of life. Voices above, the clank of boots, the low whine of engines. The heart of the enemy was beating, strong and steady, but not for long. They reached a service shaft that led up toward the fuel depot. Lena climbed first, pushing open a loose vent cover and sliding into the storage chamber. Rows of red canisters lined the walls. Fuel cells, hundreds of them. Lena smiled grimly. Walker followed, dragging his wounded leg behind him. "This is it," she whispered. "We plant 2 charges here. When they go off, it'll draw the Drax inward. Then we hit the core while they're scrambling. Suicide mission," he said. "Only if we mess up." They set the charges fast. Lena placed one near the center stack. Walker handled the second, setting a 5-minute delay. Just as they finished, they heard footsteps outside the door. Drax voices. "Close." "No time," Lena whispered. She grabbed Walker's arm, and they slipped back into the vent just as the door opened. From inside, they could hear the Drax talking. Then, silence. Then the first explosion. Boom. The floor shook, fire licked at the vent grates. The Drax shouted, running in all directions. Alarms blared, and Lena? She smiled. Now came the real part. They climbed down fast and made their way through the tunnel toward the power core, located at the center of the base. Chaos ruled above. Drax soldiers shouted in confusion, trying to contain the fire, searching for attackers who had already vanished into the walls. Reaching the base of the power chamber, Lena stopped. "This is it," she said. Walker looked up at the thick, glowing walls ahead. "There'll be guards." "Good," Lena said. "Let's give them something to remember." With one final check of their gear, they stepped out of the tunnel and into the fire. Cracks in the armor. The power chamber was massive. A giant metal cylinder stood at the center, pulsing with blue light. Thick cables ran from the core into every wall. It was the heart of the Drax base, feeding their shields, weapons, and command systems. Lena and Walker crouched behind a broken support beam just outside the entrance. 2 Drax guards stood near the main gate, armored and alert. Lena studied them. "No way around," Walker whispered. Lena nodded. "Then we go through." She pulled out her last charge and her energy blade. "We do it fast, quiet if we can." Walker loaded his sidearm. If not quiet, then loud. They moved fast. Lena slipped through the shadows while Walker aimed from behind cover. As she reached the first guard, he turned, but too late. Her blade sliced clean across his midsection. The second turned to react, but Walker fired. 3 shots to the chest. The Drax dropped with a thud. Lena rushed to the core's control panel. Strange alien symbols glowed across the surface. Walker joined her, breathing hard. "You know how to break this thing?" "No," Lena admitted. "But I'll figure it out." She scanned the screen. One icon blinked in red, probably an alert from the fuel depot fire. She touched it. A second panel opened. More symbols. She reached into her pack and pulled out the stolen Drax technician's wristband. The device activated and synced with the core console. The screen changed, now with diagrams of energy flow, shield strength, and power output. Lena found what she needed. "If we overload this section," she said, pointing to the main feed, "it'll cause a chain reaction. That means total shutdown, maybe even a meltdown." Walker gave her a look. "Maybe?" Lena smiled. "Let's find out." She opened the access panel and placed her final charge against the main conduit. Then the alarm sounded. Doors on all sides opened. Drax reinforcements. 5 soldiers poured into the chamber, weapons raised. Lena drew her blade. "We hold them off. The charge goes in 3 minutes." Walker took position behind a pillar. "Make every shot count." The firefight exploded in the chamber. Plasma bolts flew, slamming into metal and stone. Sparks rained down. Lena moved like lightning, ducking and striking, using speed over strength. One Drax fell to her blade, then another. Walker fired with steady aim, even as his leg bled. 2 minutes, he shouted. A blast knocked Lena off her feet. She hit the floor hard, her vision spinning. One Drax stood over her, weapon aimed. She rolled, grabbing a shard of metal and jamming it upward. The alien fell back, roaring in pain. She pulled herself up, panting. Walker had taken a hit in the shoulder but kept firing. "Charge is almost ready," he called. Lena looked at the core. Blue light flickered wildly. The charge blinked red, seconds away from detonation. "Time to go," she shouted. They ran, limping, bleeding, but alive, back into the tunnels as the core chamber lit up behind them. Then came the blast. Boom. The entire base trembled. Lights flickered. The power dome outside collapsed with a crackling hiss. Engines failed. Sirens screamed. The Drax base, once silent and strong, now burned with chaos. Lena and Walker collapsed in the tunnel, coughing from smoke and dust. He looked at her, half smiling through the pain. "You were supposed to surrender," he said. Lena laughed weakly. "Yeah, I changed the plan." Cracks in the armor, the power chamber was massive. A giant metal cylinder stood at the center, pulsing with blue light. Thick cables ran from the core into every wall. It was the heart of the Drax base, feeding their shields, weapons, and command systems. Lena and Walker crouched behind a broken support beam just outside the entrance. 2 Drax guards stood near the main gate, armored and alert. Lena studied them. No way around. Walker whispered. Lena nodded. Then we go through. She pulled out her last charge and her energy blade. We do it fast, quiet if we can. Walker loaded his sidearm. If not quiet, then loud. They moved fast. Lena slipped through the shadows while Walker aimed from behind cover. As she reached the first guard, he turned, but too late. Her blade sliced clean across his midsection. The second turned to react, but Walker fired. 3 shots to the chest. The Drax dropped with a thud. Lena rushed to the core's control panel. Strange alien symbols glowed across the surface. Walker joined her, breathing hard. You know how to break this thing? No, Lena admitted. But I'll figure it out. She scanned the screen. One icon blinked in red, probably an alert from the fuel depot fire. She touched it. A second panel opened. More symbols. She reached into her pack and pulled out the stolen Drax technician's wristband. The device activated and synced with the core console. The screen changed, now with diagrams of energy flow, shield strength, and power output. Lena found what she needed. If we overload this section, she said, pointing to the main feed, it'll cause a chain reaction that means total shutdown, maybe even a meltdown. Walker gave her a look. Maybe? Lena smiled. Let's find out. She opened the access panel and placed her final charge against the main conduit. Then the alarm sounded. Doors on all sides opened. Drax reinforcements. 5 soldiers poured into the chamber, weapons raised. Lena drew her blade. We hold them off. The charge goes in 3 minutes. Walker took position behind a pillar. Make every shot count. The firefight exploded in the chamber. Plasma bolts flew slamming into metal and stone. Sparks rained down. Lena moved like lightning, ducking and striking, using speed over strength. One Drax fell to her blade, then another. Walker fired with steady aim even as his leg bled. 2 minutes, he shouted. A blast knocked Lena off her feet. She hit the floor hard, her vision spinning. One Drax stood over her, weapon aimed. She rolled, grabbing a shard of metal and jamming it upward. The alien fell back, roaring in pain. She pulled herself up, panting. Walker had taken a hit in the shoulder but kept firing. Charge is almost ready, he called. Lena looked at the core. Blue light flickered wildly. The charge blinked red, seconds away from detonation. Time to go, she shouted. They ran, limping, bleeding, but alive, back into the tunnels as the core chamber lit up behind them. Then came the blast. Boom. The entire base trembled. Lights flickered. The power dome outside collapsed with a crackling hiss. Engines failed. Sirens screamed. The Drax base, once silent and strong, now burned with chaos. Lena and Walker collapsed in the tunnel, coughing from smoke and dust. He looked at her, half smiling through the pain. You were supposed to surrender, he said. Lena laughed weakly. Yeah, I changed the plan. The heart of the base. The power core explosion had broken the base's spine, but the Drax weren't done yet. Even without shields or working systems, their soldiers moved fast, trying to contain the damage and hunt down the intruders. Alarms still echoed through the base, now mixed with screams and bursts of gunfire. Smoke rolled down the halls like fog, and sparks shot from damaged walls. Lena and Walker leaned against the side of the tunnel, catching their breath. We need to move, Lena said, wiping blood from her forehead. Walker nodded, clutching his arm. How much more do we have to destroy? Lena looked up at the crumbling ceiling. Just one thing left, the command center. If we take it out, this base is done for good. Walker gave her a tired grin. Always saving the hardest part for last. The map in her hand had burned edges, but the route to the command center was still visible. A maintenance shaft led up 2 levels directly beneath the control tower. With the systems down, the security would be lighter, but the guards would be desperate. They started the climb. The shaft was tight and filled with smoke. Metal groaned with every step. Above them, they could hear the chaos. Drax officers shouting, doors slamming, weapons discharging randomly. Reaching the top, Lena pushed open the hatch and peeked out. They were behind the command center, a circular platform with cracked windows overlooking the burning base. Inside were 4 high-ranking Drax officers shouting over one another. Some were trying to reroute power. Others were sending out distress calls to their fleet. They still didn't know humans had done this. Lena stepped out first. Her blade was already in her hand. Now. Walker tossed a stun device into the room. A sharp burst of light filled the air. The officers turned, stunned and confused. Lena moved like a storm. She struck the first officer across the chest, sending him crashing into a console. Walker followed, firing at another who tried to draw his weapon. One Drax roared and charged Lena, but she ducked, stabbed low, and kicked him into a wall. The last officer tried to flee. Walker, barely standing, aimed and fired once, straight to the head. The body dropped. Silence returned. Lena looked around. The control room was still active. Barely. Screens flickered. Emergency warnings flashed. Red lights pulsed along the walls. She stepped to the main terminal. "There's a self-destruct system," she muttered. "Manual, not automatic. Can we use it?" She nodded. "It'll bring the entire structure down." Walker limped to her side. "You sure about this?" Lena stared out the window. The Drax had invaded this world, killed her team, ordered her to surrender. Now she stood in their command center, alive, breathing, holding their fate in her hands. She pressed the activation key. A countdown appeared on the screen. 2 minutes. She turned to Walker. "Time to go." But Walker wasn't moving. He leaned against the wall, his leg too damaged to continue. "You need to go," he said. "You can still make it." Lena shook her head. "Not leaving you. There's no time." She looked down the hallway. Flames blocked one side. Rubble blocked the other. Only one path remained. Through the comms tower shaft. She helped him up, dragging his arm over her shoulder. "We both go," she said, "or none of this matters." The tower rumbled beneath them as the countdown ticked. They stumbled into the escape shaft, crawling down as the base roared behind them. At the final second, they leaped into a lower level, and then the world above them exploded. Boom. Flames shot into the sky. The command tower collapsed. A wave of heat rolled across the valley. Lena and Walker lay on the ground, surrounded by rubble and smoke, barely conscious, but alive. And the base, the mighty Drax stronghold, was gone. Victory at a cost. The dust settled slowly. Ash floated in the air like gray snow. The sky, once filled with enemy patrols, now showed patches of pale blue. The massive Drax base, once a symbol of their strength, was nothing more than twisted steel and scorched rock. Lena coughed as she pushed rubble off her back. Her arms shook. Her vision was blurred. But she was alive. A groan beside her. "Walker?" she said weakly. He blinked slowly. His face was pale, his arm badly burned, and blood soaked the side of his uniform. "Still here," he whispered. She helped him sit, up against a chunk of broken wall. They both looked toward the smoking crater where the base used to stand. The entire command tower was gone. "No more reinforcements," Walker muttered. "No more orders. No more shields. No more threats," Lena added. They sat in silence, for a moment. The only sound was the wind blowing through the ruined battlefield. Lena finally stood, her body aching in every place. She pulled out the small comm device from her bag. The one that hadn't worked since the first attack. She tried again. "Command, this is Cadet Lena," she said. "The Drax base is destroyed. Repeat, the enemy base has been taken down. Survivors. Requesting pickup." Static then, crackling. "Lena, this is Command. Say again, what do you mean the base is destroyed?" She smiled faintly. "I mean it's gone. All of it." Silence. Then more voices. Shocked. Disbelieving. "Standby. Rescue team en route. ETA 10 minutes. Hang on." Lena sat down beside Walker. "You hear that?" she said. "Yeah. We're gonna get yelled at," he said with a grin. "They told you to surrender." She gave a small laugh. "I wasn't good at following orders anyway." Minutes later, the hum of engines approached. 3 dropships hovered overhead, kicking up smoke and dust. Rescue soldiers jumped out, weapons raised, scanning for threats, then freezing when they saw the 2 humans at the edge of the destroyed base. One of the officers ran forward. "Lena, are you the only ones?" She nodded. "Everyone else didn't make it." The officer looked at the smoldering ruins wide-eyed. "And you 2 did all this?" "We just finished what they started," Lena replied softly. Medics rushed in and lifted Walker onto a stretcher. They checked her wounds too, but she waved them off. She stood at the edge of the landing zone, staring out at the ruins. The enemy had expected fear. They had expected surrender. Instead, they got her. They got a human who wouldn't give up, even when left behind, even when told to fall. She had stood up and turned the tide. Behind her, one of the soldiers whispered, "She took the whole base." And from that moment on, the story would spread across every human colony, across every alien outpost. The human cadet who was told to surrender, but took the enemy's stronghold instead. The legend begins. 2 weeks later, the skies above New Terra were clear, and the city buzzed with a quiet tension. Soldiers lined the Grand Assembly Square. Civilians watched from rooftops and balconies holding banners and flags. The attack on the Drax base had shaken the colonies, but the victory had stunned them. At the center of the square stood a single, raised platform, and on it, Lena. Her uniform was cleaned, but her body still carried the marks of the battle. A healing cut above her brow, a support brace on her ribs. Her hand rested over the metal pinned to her chest. Beside her, Walker stood with a crutch and a tired smile. The human commander stepped forward and faced the crowd. "We sent them on a routine scout mission," the commander said. "Then everything went wrong. We told her to surrender. No one expected her to survive, not even us." He turned toward Lena. But instead of surrendering, she took their base. The crowd erupted into cheers. They chanted her name, not as a soldier, not as a hero, but as a symbol. Because her victory wasn't just a win in a single battle. It was proof. Proof that humanity, even when cornered, even when outnumbered, even when left behind, fights back. Lena looked out across the sea of faces. It still felt strange. She never planned to be a hero. She didn't want medals or speeches. She just did what needed to be done. But now the colonies knew her name. Her story spread across the stars, told in every academy, broadcasted in every outpost. Soldiers called her the cadet who defied the impossible. Children played games pretending to be the girl who took a whole enemy base. Even the Drax had heard it. Their commanders now spoke her name with fear and respect, and in future battles they prepared twice as hard whenever they knew humans were involved. Because of her. As the ceremony ended, reporters rushed forward. "Lena, what made you keep fighting when you were told to surrender?" She paused, looked at the camera and said softly, "Because I knew if I gave up, they'd do it to someone else. I didn't fight for revenge. I fought so no one else would have to." And just like that, the cameras clicked, the speech ended, and history was written. Lena walked off the stage beside Walker. She didn't look back at the medals or banners. She had done what she came to do, and the galaxy would never forget.